I don't know why Christian doctrine is so adamant about not coveting thy neighbor's wife. I can understand not coveting thy neighbor's goods because that makes you steal. But coveting thy neighbor's wife is a good thing. And applying that to modern society, women are earning and men are stay at home, and two such couples then, happen to live as neighbors to each other. Well, then why not covet thy neighbor's husband as well? Covet thy neighbor's spouse. It's not bad. I don't think it's bad. It's not as good as coveting. It's not as bad as coveting thy neighbor's goods, at least. And I'll tell you why, man. I'll tell you why. I have an explanation. When you covet thy neighbor's wife, that's primarily because you're not satisfied with your wife. Human marriages have a different dynamic. After going through all the hate and heartbreak that comes with people coming and going, and that happens with everybody, I think humanity gets filled with a lot of insecurity, and individuals become very insecure by the time they become marriageable. Perhaps back in the old days when Christianity was more relevant as a religion, and religion itself was more relevant than other things and other values and principles, when communication was not that big a deal, was not that possible, so it wasn't that big, then perhaps when you got married very early and you were very secure of your wife, then perhaps it might have been different. But these days, insecurity plays a big role in marriages, and I think that's been the case for a very long time, even back in those days when Christianity was relevant. And religion itself was relevant. It's not specific to Christianity. That's why you told people not to covet their neighbors' wives in the first place. Why? Because the neighbor would feel jealous and insecure, and it would be a bad situation to be in, and all the neighborly love would be lost and would be replaced by competition and jealousy. That is why they preached that. But I think you should covet thy neighbor's wife, because on more occasions than on more than one occasion, you will not actually end up actively trying to woo your neighbor's wife. Neither would she end up getting wooed by you. In most given scenarios, you probably have a wife of your own and you love her. At least you don't want to part with her. Now, you don't want to get lost in that scenario where you don't have your wife anymore. And you would feel very bad if your neighbor started coveting your wife, so you are also insecure. So coveting your neighbor's wife becomes an act of personal private fantasy. And I feel that that personal private fantasy only adds to the respect that your neighbor has in your mind. Because now you start idealizing the woman that lives next door. And you start privately guessing at what it might be that she has found in the man that she lives with. It's a thought that is not very obvious because, lost in that private fantasy, we seldom think about such personal details. But these things do come to mind when we cry, and when we are sad, and when we lose hope. That private fantasy goes farther and farther away in our minds when we lose confidence in ourselves. So it tells us something. When we are confident, when people can jerk off, when people think that it is good to covet their neighbor's wife, when it is possible to gain something out of coveting their neighbor's wife, I think that's a confident phase. But deep down, they do realize that the neighbor is a good man, and it's a great man perhaps, and that is why the dear woman of their fantasies tries to stay with that man and not go any other man's way. It only adds to the respect a certain man will have for their neighbor. It cannot be bad. Covet your neighbor's spouse, covet your neighbor's husband, covet your neighbor's wife. It adds to your character and it adds to their character. Perhaps it wouldn't be as wise to act on it, But it would not be very unwise to dream of that either.